one of the people that got a new deal that people are really criticizing, and a lot of it is coming from the 49ers themselves, is Brandon Aiyuk, Levin. People are pooping on Brandon Aiyuk a lot this offseason. And like, I get that he wasn't playing as good as he did in 2023 before he got hurt, but also he only played 7 games. And now people are like, oh, that contract is so terrible. It's horrible. Why did they do that? It's like, they didn't know he was going to get hurt when they signed him. He was healthy when they signed him. Even Brian Baldinger was on 95.7 The Game talking about, the Niners are a run-first team and shouldn't have spent that money on Brandon Aiyuk. Like, he blocks his ass off in the run game. I do not get the crapping on Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I do not do it, but there's a small part of me that sees at least the avenue that gets you to it. I don't necessarily see their point of view or see the logic behind it, because I don't know that it's logical, but I can see how they arrive to it. In retrospect, paying him is not going to be worthwhile, because he's not going to be the guy that was before the contract with the injury that he had. That's just the way it's going to be. But that's retrospect.
Right.
There's so many things that you could judge in retrospect and not have wanted to do. Every draft pick almost, because you fail on like 80 or 90% of your draft picks. So like, you can't play that game. You can't be like, oh, let's look back and be like, yep, that team, and start criticizing. You can look back and say, hey, that was a bad decision. I don't think you can look back and be like, that was a bad decision. What morons was the team for doing that? It's like, no, if you were in the moment saying, yes, this is a good deal, they should be doing this, and not criticizing them, I don't think you can criticize them in retrospect for having done it.
Right. Brandon Aiyuk is a 26-year-old wide receiver. Everybody acknowledged he was one of the few younger guys the Niners had that was still sort of ascending. So, and now everyone's like just pooping all over that deal and that contract. I feel bad for Brandon Aiyuk personally, because I don't think he deserves a lot of the hate that he's getting. Daza0187 says, was this team a Super Bowl contender anyway? Maybe Jed was tired of overpaying for mediocrity. Again, before last year, they were just in the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't say mediocrity. This is one year where everybody got hurt. Like, I just think that Jed was looking for an excuse to do this. And he couldn't do it when they were making Super Bowls and NFC championship games. But now that they went 6-11 last year, he could swoop right in and say, well, I'm not going to pay for that.
Right. He's using the 6-11 as leverage to say, see, this isn't a contender. I'm not spending the money. Right. I'm sorry. I got to throw this up there because I've seen it twice now.
Okay.
I don't understand Joe Tiz's trade Brock and mid-round picks for Trevor Lawrence. I think earlier he was the one that said trade Brock and 2 third-round picks for Trevor Lawrence. I wouldn't trade Brock for Trevor Lawrence straight up. What are you talking about adding picks to this? Trevor Lawrence's contract is crap. It's one of the worst in the league now. I wouldn't trade for Trevor Lawrence. If you said, hey, we'll give you Trevor Lawrence for a single third-round pick, I would probably still say no. I would consider it at that point, because at that point, it's like, okay, maybe we can get a first back for Brock and we end up ahead on this thing. But Trevor Lawrence at this point is 1 year away from never getting to start again in the league.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Trevor Lawrence and mid-round picks for Brock Purdy. I've never been on the Trevor Lawrence train, and I continue to not see a reason to board that thing. There was another comment that, Andre says, don't feel bad, he's got his millions. Now, Andre, I appreciate your support as a YouTube channel member, but I disagree with this comment. Just because somebody makes a lot of money doesn't mean bad things can't happen to them. Doesn't mean they deserve to get crapped on for when Brandon Aiyuk didn't want to get hurt. I'm sure Brandon Aiyuk would prefer to have all the CLs in his knee be functioning at this very moment. He didn't want to get hurt, and he may have rounded into form. He may have picked it up after a half year, since he didn't have any training camp or anything due to the holdout. He may have ended up playing great the second half of the year last year. We don't know. And I don't like all the hate that he's getting. And I don't like the way that, Tim Kawakami wrote that literally immediately after they signed the deal with Aiyuk, the 49ers regretted it. And we're telling other teams that it was a bad deal, that they regretted it. Like, who does that? What kind of an organization does that? Which is why I think it was Parag getting crap from other people when they saw the contract, and then Parag saying, well, it wasn't me. I didn't want to do it. I was forced to do it. Because to me, there's no way Jed York signs that contract and then dials up like Michael Bidwell and is like, oh, did you see that Aiyuk contract we signed? It's terrible. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So it had to be coming from Parag.
That's why I think there's a non-0% chance that Aiyuk is traded this offseason.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I do think that if they find somebody willing to give them a second or maybe even third, but I would say probably second round pick, they would probably pull the trigger on that. Get out of the deal and get a decent draft pick back. Now, I will say that has an expiration date, and that expiration date is probably next week. Because I think if they do that, then they're going to go super hard for Davante Adams to replace him this year and then draft somebody probably in the first 2 rounds to try to develop into being a starter for after Davante Adams. Once free agency happens, I don't think it's a scenario that they're going to say, okay, we're going to do Jennings, Pearsall, and we're going to draft somebody in the first round, and we'll be okay with that at wide receiver. I don't think they're doing that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The streets were saying that Brandon Aiyuk and the Patriots were close to a deal. Who knows? We'll just wait and see how that sort of thing plays out. Jan says, oops, sorry, wrong comment. Ron says wide receivers aren't worth $30 million per year. The best left tackles aren't getting $30 million per year. I mean, the market would disagree with you. There are multiple wide receivers making 30 a year, I believe, and there's going to be more, especially once Cincinnati gets their ducks in a row there. So the market disagrees with you, Jan.
I would say I'm willing to pay $30 million for somebody that is elite at being able to get open on their own. And Brandon Aiyuk was amongst the best in the NFL at, based on his own route running, he is going to get open consistently. If he can get back to that, I don't have a problem paying him what he has on his contract. I don't agree with paying people like Deebo, is obviously the prime example of it in the NFL, but there are others out there that have gotten paid that they can't necessarily just get open because of their route running. You know, they have maybe a route that they do well on, or they can beat the press really well so they can get a good release, and that will allow them to get open, but their cuts and their route running are average at best, so they got to rely on scheme and other things to get. I don't care to pay for that. Any of those players, I don't care what statistics they've put up, I would be trading. Once they get to the point where they need a new contract, I would be trading. I would have traded Deebo Samuel after his big year because I knew then. I was saying it then. So I was saying like I'm okay paying him, but I would prefer not, was the stance I had back then.
I was fine with, I liked that they did the 3-year deal with Deebo because I thought it recognized this guy between his work habits and his physical style of play was not going to age well. And so I thought it was fine. I did not agree with restructuring Deebo Samuel, which to me is crazy. This tweet on the screen. Oh, go ahead. What were you
I was going to say, did you see what Deebo said about his weight?
Oh, he said he was at 225 last year.
Yeah, that he was 10 pounds over his listed weight. Oh, so you admit to being fat and lazy.
I mean, it's always Wes Welker would run 2 miles with Deebo Samuel before practice his rookie season and then run again after practice, immediately after practice, every day. And he still couldn't hit the number 212 that the Niners wanted to be at. So it's always been an issue for Deebo Samuel. He had, a nice little farewell thing in the Players Tribune where he talks about how much he appreciates the 49ers and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's great. I don't care about any of that. It also glossed over all the reasons why the 49ers were done with him, but that's fine. It's his version of the events, so that's great.
Whatever.
Bobby Thompson tweets that the Patriots are aggressive on pursuing Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay.
Look, if they're aggressive, like they could get it done. The Patriots have pick 38 in round 2, pick 38 overall, which is like, a top 10 pick in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
You get offered that to the 49ers, the deal would be done. I guarantee you the deal would be done. Now, they also have pick 69 in round 3, which is probably what they're offering the 49ers. The Niners are probably pushing for the second round pick.
I'll say this. Whether or not I'm okay trading Aiyuk depends on if they can get Adams in free agency. If you tell me they can get pick 38 and they signed Davante Adams to not, obviously not a top of the market deal, I'm okay with that. I would say that is preferable to me than keeping Aiyuk. And I've been as big of a fan of Aiyuk as anybody. But the simple fact is we don't know what he will be. we don't know that he can return to what he was. Let's say he's a little bit slower on his cuts. Well, that was his thing. So if he can't cut and have the route running that he had, then he's not going to be nearly as good as he was. So if you can get pick 38, which is the very top of the second round, and you're telling me they can sign Devontae Adams, I'm okay with it. Now, if you're saying that we're going to get pick 38 and Adams ends up signing elsewhere, I'm not okay with it. I would rather keep Aiyuk than do that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Would you do Aiyuk in a fourth to get pick 38?
Fifth for sure. Fourth, you're pushing it. I don't know. I feel like fourth and fifth is where I have in my mind that there's a big difference. I think after you get past the first 4 rounds, you're basically saying, well, we think this guy has, some chance. He has basically a lottery ticket chance of being anything on our team. I think in the 4th round, there are still players that you're going, yeah, this guy has a pretty good chance of being a starter for us in a year, and obviously I think this is the way I look at the draft. And this is generic, general terms. 1st and 2nd round is this guy's going to be a big contributor for us right away. 3rd and 4th is we think this guy will be a starter, but it's going to take a year to develop him because he's a little green and he needs to get better at a certain thing that's Achilles heel. 5th and later is, well, there's something there that maybe turns into something, but we're not counting on this guy to ever contribute. It's if he contributes, great. If he fails, then we'll just cut him and be done with it.
I would agree there. I like this comment from Jason. Would anyone be interested in either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf?
Metcalf can stay the heck away.
Right. He requested a trade. The Seahawks reportedly want a 1st and a 3rd for Metcalf.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they could get a second. I would say this. I bet Aiyuk has more trade value than Metcalf because Metcalf is coming off a bad year and he's coming off a year of being a head case and a problem.
Yeah, but you don't know about his knee. He's got 2 functioning knees. We don't know. Like you said, Brandon Aiyuk could be cooked at this point. We don't know. That was a devastating knee injury. Now, if you want reasons for optimism, all the reports about his health that we've heard have been good. The same surgeon that did Ayuk's knee did Bosa's knee, and they had the same injury. Bosa also tore multiple ligaments in his knee and came back and was phenomenal the next year. So that's encouraging, but you don't know. There is a lot of unknown there.